I'm guessing you've heard of the Salem witch hunts, but did you know, were you aware? Well, before I ask you that, have you ever wondered why almost all the people that have died in witch hunts through history were women? And that's what this video is about, the suppression of women down through the ages. And I'm going to start with witch hunts. Witch hunts because I think they were the easiest way to suppress a woman and a woman's accomplishments down through the ages. And a lot of that came about because of the Catholic faith and their demonization of women. In fact, during the heyday of witch burning in Europe, estimates are that perhaps 500,000 people were burned as witches, and almost all of them were women. And a couple of years later, here in the U.S., well, we're all familiar with the witches that were burned in Salem, mostly because they were doing women's things like midwifing that men thought doctors, male doctors, should be doing. But that's my wife's 2 cents, not mine. But of course, men haven't always been so violent in their suppression of the fairer sex. Sometimes men have been real assholes in quieter, subtle ways, like taking credit for something a woman accomplished. And of course, that's happened a lot. Just ask Hedy Lamarr, the famous actress who invented a wireless communication system, because she'd tell you that while the U.S. Navy used her invention, she never got credit for it till just before she died. And that probably only happened because she was a well-known movie star. If Hedy had not been famous, her contribution to the world of technology would probably never have been known, like a shitload of other women who made historical and even fascinating contributions to our lives, but were overshadowed by the men that took credit. Cure for leprosy? Check mark. Disposable diapers? Check mark. The game Monopoly? Check mark. The existence of dark matter? Check mark. And the list goes on and on. Good Lord, we should ask, what the fuck? But all us men know the answer, and yes, we should be ashamed. So let's ask ourselves, when as men did we start making women submissive to us? In effect, making them second to us manly men. And I just gotta shake my head as I'm researching this, because the truth is, men have always oppressed and suppressed women. And one could argue that fact goes all the way back to Adam and Eve, or if you're more scientifically inclined, to our caveman days. And there's plenty of studies that have been done to confirm this, but before we go there, we gotta go back to religion. Because just about every religion oppresses women in some form, and at the very least by not allowing them to actually speak for their God as the head of a congregation. Of course, we started off this little video with churches burning women, so I guess that goes without saying that maybe religion just doesn't like women. And why is that? And the answer is power. Power defined by masculine dominance. And just about everything when it comes to our religion is male-dominated. And it isn't because God likes men better than women. Although that story about Adam and Eve and the apple didn't help much, which I'm guessing was wrote by a man, because God taught only men to write, which is another way men have suppressed women, by not allowing them to have an education, just like today in Afghanistan. And if you're a little girl in a lot of African countries, truth is, it's extremely hard to get an education. Almost as hard as it was for a woman to vote here in the U.S. Or, geez, even have the right to her own credit card until not all that long ago. As a man, I'm going to close this by saying I'm ashamed at how we've suppressed and oppressed our wives, our daughters, sisters, and nieces. Deeply ashamed. But the bright sunlight in all this is, it seems to be changing a little, especially here in the U.S. But we do have a long way to go. I'd like to be a little bit serious here. Well, okay, not serious. Well, yeah, serious, because this whole video came out because of something my wife said. You know, we were talking about Salem witch burnings and shit like that. And that's why I said, well, that's my wife's 2 cents. And you know, I think she's right. I mean, you know, some things are just hard to talk about, hard to understand. And one of them is the difference between the sexes and how we treat what men call the weaker sex. And women are not the weaker sex by far. I actually believe they're the stronger sex. But I was brought up believing or taught that women were the weaker sex. And that used to be a phrase, believe it or not. And you know, if you're a 19, 20-year-old, if you're a young woman today, stop and think about this. You guys didn't have the right to have your own credit card until like 1974. Yeah, we've came a long way, but we've got a long way to go. We'll get there, my friends. We will. That's a promise. Keep working at it. Okay. I hope you enjoyed this video. That's all I got left to say. Thanks for watching. Leave a comment, sub, like, do your thing. I'd appreciate it. With that, I'm out of here and on to other things. Although I do not know what other things. Oh, what the fuck?